Hi everybody, this is Rita Holmes, independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, here to bring you my What's Up Wednesday video. So, what's up? Anybody have any ideas what's up? I know what's up for me right now is I am going to show you how to ink a stamp pad when it gets dry, and for you to be able to notice when it gets dry, and so I'm going to show you the difference between what it looks like for a dryer ink pad as opposed to what it looks like for an ink pad that's full. And then I will be demonstrating how I ink an ink pad. And there's all different kinds of ways and all different things to use, but I'll show you what I like to use best. And so we will be covering that. So do a lot of people, do you ink your ink pad? Some people never do. You know, when I first started stamping, I never bought ink refills or nothing. And I'm like, oh, my ink lasted a long time. Well, then when I really found out, when I really was stamping all the time, I found out the difference in inking a stamp and not inking a stamp. So I always suggest when you buy your stamp pad to go ahead and buy a re-inker. The reason being is one thing, you know, because of color lots and different things like that, I usually try to buy a new re-inker with a new stamp pad because it's a fresher lot of ink, as to better words to say. And you do need it. You know, some ink pads I ink all the time, some I don't. I don't use them that much if they stay closed and where the ink pad is upside down, which Stampin' Up's ink pads are made, they're already upside down, even they look right side up. So, but that helps keep your ink into the top of your ink pad. So I always turn over like my Versamark, my Memento. I try to turn that one over, but a lot of times it is just right side up just because I use it a lot. But you know, especially the ones that are like Versamark, Stays On, things that I don't use very often, I make sure that those stay upside down. But that's a lot about ink pads, you know, and there's different kinds of ink pads. Some of the ink pads I know you should really ink a lot is your Versamark and your white craft pad, because those inks are thick. They're very thick inks, and therefore they dry out really fast. But I am just going to show you tonight on our regular Stampin' Up ink pads, which this really is par for the course on most ink pads. So I'm going to turn my camera down and we are going to get started, okay? So let me turn that down, and I think I'm going to bring it down a little bit. I don't know if it's going to make me too close. I'm going to pull it up on my monitor just so I could see it, to make sure that I am pretty good on where I need to be. It's always good to know what you're doing, right? Here's my cord that's supposed to be plugged into my phone, but it's not. But you know, what's that about? I'll plug it in real quick. I forgot to do that. My phone it's been used quite a bit today, so therefore we are dying. So here's my Flirty Flamingo and Crush Curry. They are both pads that need to be re-inked. Here are my re-inkers. And let me just say, you do not want to shake this like you would shake a bottle. The reason being, you're going to get a lot of air bubbles in there for when you're putting it out on your pad. I turn it upside down and I roll it in my hands like this. That makes you dizzy, I'm sorry. But I just turn it over, do this rather than shake it. You don't get the air bubbles, okay? I learned this from a stamping rep a long time ago. So that's what I do, and it just brings that ink down into your, mixes it up where it kind of settles. And you do the same with your other one. See how dark that is right there? And it should... And I just roll them up really good. And you can see a lighter color coming into there. See how that is? It just... So, here are my 2 ink pads that need re-inked. And I will show you how I know that. Let me push that in. So if you look at this ink pad, can you see around the edges are darker and the inside is really light? See how that is? What that is your ink pad's drying out here, because when you stamp, a lot of that pushes your ink to the sides. So that's why your sides are usually darker. And that's why when you stamp, you start stamping towards the outside because you can get better ink. It's because your ink pad is drying in here. I'll show you what the crushed curry one looks like, just the same. I got it out because it's a little bit darker the way it shows. But you can see the edges of this one is getting really light. This one is in bad need of being re-inked. So anyway, that is, and I hope you can see that. See the difference in the color. So I got out my blueberry bushel. I don't use it a lot, and it stays sealed. And see how dark that is all over? That's what your ink pad's supposed to look like. That is what it's supposed to look like, where you don't see a lot of this light color like this is. You want to see a nice dark ink pad, evenly inked. So let me shut this one back. And what I was saying about our ink pads always stay upside down. See how this is in the lid? So when I push that lid over, my pads, this is right side up, but my ink is upside down. That's what Stampin' Up! Ink pads are like. So it keeps the ink towards the top of your pad. Now when I go to ink up my ink pad, I'm just rolling this real quick again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to put dots on here. I'm just going to, and I'm not going to go to the outer edges. I'm just putting dots. Okay, see how I've dotted that? And see how they're soaking in? That's because that pad really needs to be inked. So see how that's all soaking? Now, here is what I use. It's a bone folder. I've had it for years, but I love to do my ink pads with it. Because what I do, I'm going to move that one out of my way since it's open. I rub this like this. Okay, and this is going to have to be inked more, and you can tell that because how that is rubbed in. And I have nothing on my bone folder, so we need to put some more ink on there. Now when I put it on there, it's going to soak in a little faster probably. See how that's soaking in faster because there's ink in there? So see how I did that? Stay away from your sides. And then and you don't want it to, if it's laying on top of the ink pad, your ink, when you put the ink on there, it does not need to be re-inked. If it's not soaking into the pad, it does not need to be re-inked. And this one needs to be re-inked really bad. We're going to need to put a little bit more on there. See how bad that's soaking in there now? But if it doesn't soak in like that, if it's just standing on top, then you're going to want to pull a lot of that ink back out. You can also use like an old gift card or something like that that's got an edge on it to spread your ink. Now I'm going to spread in my corners here. I'm going to bring some of that ink into the center. And see how much lighter they're getting, because it's going to all pan out alike. Now what I'm going to do with this, because I think it might need it, but I can see it getting shiny on the top. So I know it's getting the ink that it needs. Let's do this one more time. And and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and rub this in. And you want to rub your ink in and actually, you know, go both ways. You don't want to press real hard into there. You just want to rub across that top and get that ink blended in. I still don't have a lot of ink on here, which is a good thing. It means I'm not over inking it, but I can wipe that off. So when I go to my next color, I don't have ink showing. I can actually, I'm going to close this. Even though, see, it's looking a little spotty, I'm going to close it. It'll be upside down for a few minutes while I do the other one, and we're going to come back to it. So see how light this one is? We're going to take this again. I'm going to just roll it since I had it sitting, but not as long. And I'm going to put the dots. And see how these dots are sitting? It's sitting because it's dry. It's taken it a while, because it's really dry. I will take what I should do, and I'll do it because I'm on here doing it. I'll do it the right way, is I'll clean this off with a wipe of some sort. And it'll take all kinds of ink off of there. And then I'll wipe it off on here. And then you can see that's not really, this pad is very dry. And it's not a case where you want to just drop a bunch of ink on here and then just let it go and soak in, because what it is, it's going to soak in just to these spots where it's at, where you've got to see this ink. So your image would be real spotty if you did that. That's why you want to blend this in with some kind of tool. Like I use the old bone folder. And so you can see this. I'm really going to rub this and get that soaked in. See how light that's getting where I sit, pushing that down into the pad. I don't have a thing on my, it's not building up on my bone folder, so I know we're going to have to put some more. Shows you how dry some of my pads are. I need to go through and just ink, you know, go through and see what pads really need ink and do that. I don't do this as often as I should. That one helped. It's getting there. See it getting darker. Do it again. I know it seems like I'm dumping a whole bunch of ink, and I am, because mine are really dry. But what I'm saying is just drop on there 10 or so drops of ink and spread it in, and then drop more if you think you need it. And you can stop after you've done this a couple times if it's really dry, and use it, and then just see how it's inking up for you, so that you can get a feel for what you need to do. You don't want to ever over ink a pad, because everything gets real wet. You'll have ink all over on your stamp when you when you stamp with it, and you don't want to do that. And if you do that, what you need to do is take, I'm going to wipe this off a minute. There's hardly anything on there to wipe off. But if you ever did that, you would want to take the side of here or whatever, and you would want to scrape and pull that ink out a little bit, and it would puddle over here, and then wipe it off and do it again. It's kind of like wasting some ink. Now I'm going to show you, you've seen me use the bone folder, and I'm going to put more ink on here because it's really getting dark now, so I know it's getting done. A lot of people like to take the back of the spoon. I would put my finger in the spoon and do this, but you're not getting the edges as well when you're using a spoon as you can with like the bone folder or even a old gift card. But you can use the back of a plastic spoon, and you can rinse that off and use it over and over and over and over again. It's not going to hurt it. There's something on my pad there. Got it off. So see how that's getting darker in the center now? That means that it's really coming along. So I'm going to close it. I don't have to ink all that up right now. I can close it. And I can bring this one back in, and you can still see where it's getting darker. It's got some of those little ink spots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ink this one more time, and see how that's now soaking in, because that pad is wet, so it's soaking into it a lot better. I'm going to clean this off, just get the yellow off of it. You don't want to cross-contaminate your pads, because when you do, you're going to get a different color. And you really don't want to do that if you can help it. So I am just going to mix this up this one last time. That's all I'm putting on this one. I've got good even color on here, because my ink is not all pushed out to the side. You see that dark in there where that ink is laying. And you can see that my bone folder is wetter from when I started it, where we wasn't pulling any ink out. So that means it's pretty well stamped or inked. And therefore now it would make a really nice image. Let me get a stamp real quick and a piece of paper. And when you use it, if you're going to use this when it's freshly stamped, you will want to barely tap. I'm just going to pull the first stamp I saw. It's a round of hellos, because it's the A, and mine are alphabetical. So now when I stamp this, I should have stamped it before with it. I barely have to touch in there, and I'm going to get all of my ink. I want that out of my way. It doesn't want to scoot. So, but I'm in the camera, so you're good. I just knocked over my glue gun. So see how nice and even that is? That's what you're looking for. You don't want it to be, and you barely have to touch that. It's a nice new inked pad. So that's the images that you are going to get with that once you ink it. So don't try to over ink, you know, let it sit tomorrow, whatever, you know, check it again if you think it really looks like it needs to be inked. But you can see mine's darker on the inside now than the outside. I'm not worried about that because I stamp in the middle. It's going to push that ink out a little bit. And, but as this sits and that ink all comes to surface, it might all be dark in one color tomorrow. This one we have let sit. It's gotten really dark from what we did. So let's try to stamp it and see. I just cleaned this. So let's ink it and see how it does. See how nice and crisp that is? And you saw I barely touched that into the ink. I just pounce it a little bit. And then when I come over here, it gives me a nice image. That's what a nice ink pad will do for you. And I will show you, this has got a lot of ink in it, because see, I just pressed on that, and look at the ink that's all over that. Let's see what I get here. Now look at it. See how it's not as even and stuff? Look at my flower in there. Because that was just inked, and so we took that ink right out of the middle. We'll just cover it up. Just do this. There we go. So anyway, I'm going to leave my ink pads the way they are. I'll check them when I go to use them again, and if they look like they need more ink, I will ink them. But I haven't over inked them, and that was my aim. You want to make sure you don't over ink, because then it just bubbles up on the side and stuff like that. So there we go with that. And we can see how this one stamps. It looks like it's good. I think it's good. So let's see what it does. Well, I didn't ink it good at the bottom of there. Guess I didn't press my stamp down. There we go. And see how that one, because it's nice, it has all, you can see all your lines in it and stuff. That's what a good ink pad looks like. Good inked ink pad. So I hope that you will, for one thing, if you haven't bought reinkers for your pads, start buying some. You don't have to buy them all at one time, but start buying some. Maybe look at your pads and see what's the ones that look like they need to be inked the most, and get your reinkers and re-ink them, and then, you know, kind of just watch them and you know, keep them inked, because for one thing, it helps the ink pad if it doesn't get so dried out that it's hard as a rock. And for another thing, you get much better images, and you can see that on this paper, how the images look nice and crisp. I hope you've learned something tonight as far as inking ink pads and that. So if you guys have any requests of something you want to know, something you want to see, I had a request that said, you know, maybe show this because I would like to know, you know. So if one person likes to know, there's got to be other ones out there too. So that's what I did today. And I hope that you enjoyed it. And you can let me know in the comments if this was a video that was very helpful to you or not. And I would appreciate it, so that I know what's really being useful, since I'm new at doing this type of video. And come back Saturday morning at 10:30. I'll have my Simply Saturday card up, and you can see what that's about. So just trying to keep you all busy with videos, I guess. I enjoy doing them. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy this kind of teaching a lot. So, you know, just pop me some questions if you have some things you would like to see done. Just let me know if I can do them or have some knowledge of it. I will be sure to share it. I don't mind that. But until then, everybody have a great day, and be creative when you can, and we will see you again next week for What's Up Wednesday. But until then, we have a video on Saturday and another video on Tuesday. So see you all then. Thanks, and bye.